Let me say this real quick. Same God, same plan, just a different dispensation what was going on. Then, the Bible said, God instituted the next dispensation. And during this dispensation, from Noah, actually we're going to go to 500 years after Noah to Abraham. Abraham come on the scene about 2,000 years before Christ. And for the next 2,000 years from Abraham, or 2,500 years from Noah to Christ, if you read the Old Testament, boy, there was a lot of killing going on during this time. If you'll read the wars, and God was involved in it, because God would institute or tell the people, go kill, you're going to be blessed, go down and you can destroy these ungodly heathen people. In this time span, Tony, men had a lot of wives, if you read.
That's why they're so angry.
What are you trying to say, Tony? But let me say again, we call this dispensation a time span. It was under the authority of God, but it was in God's plan to do this. And you say, Brother Robbins, why? I do not know. Because the Bible said God's ways are higher than our ways, his thoughts. But that was what we call a dispensation. We find that God began to work with his people. He called a man named Abraham. Later, Abraham had Isaac, Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. These became the 12 tribes of Israel, and they are mentioned not only in the Old Testament, they're mentioned even in the New Testament. And God's blessing was all about the Jewish people, and pretty good most of the Old Testament is about a dispensation or time span that God was dealing with the Jewish people. Dealing with the Jewish people. We got a thought here, any words?
Is this all in Genesis?
No.
Okay.
We find that Genesis ends with the death of Jacob and Joseph. The next book in the Bible is called Exodus. This is dealing with Noah. Noah being called of God, bringing the children of Jacob, bringing them out of bondage, bringing Egypt and taking them to the promised land. And if you read these passages into Joshua, all that, God was allowing a lot of killing going on during this time. God was blessing the Jewish people. This went on all the way to Christ. Time span from Noah, 2,500 years, from Abraham, 2,000 years, and then all of a sudden, God brought in a new dispensation with Christ. During the time before Christ, killing wars was all this, but when Jesus come on the scene, he brought a dispensation, what we call a grace, God's divine love, to bring the whole world to him through Christ. And that would go on today, 2,000 years later, entirely different from the time of Adam to Noah, greatly entirely different from Noah to Christ. So we're living in a whole different dispensation, a different time span. Things are so dramatically different than from Adam to Noah, Noah to Christ. Same God, but different time span, same plan, different operations than it was now. Because the Jewish people, when Jesus began to bring in this dispensation, they did not and would not accept the new way, because they had been living under this dispensation that God brought about, even though if they knew, and many of them knew, 300 different prophecies was going to be about Christ coming on the scene, the Messiah, to bring on this generation. But the Jewish people and God's plan for them were rejected simply that they were not willing and ready to go into God's new plan that was in. Here's what it was. Jesus talking to the Jewish people about dispensation. He said, you cannot take new wine and put in old bottles. A bottle at this time really was, they made wine bottles or wine containers usually out of stomachs of wild animals. They would take the stomach and tie it in and make if they done it that way, or they could have, containers, pots, or exactly vases. We know that the first miracle that Jesus done in Canaan, that they had containers of wine. They run out of wine, and Mary came to Jesus and said, Lord, they're out of wine. And Jesus said, what are you coming to me for, Mom, lady? What does that mean? I'm not beginning my ministry yet. But she said, Jesus, they're out of wine. Then she went and told the servants, whatever he says to do, do it.